If I cannot see who I am without being mirrored in the eyes and in the attitudes of the people around me, then I need to make sure I create an environment where I can be reflected back as being really a good person. People like me. They want to be around me. And I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that never stops.
As you're talking, I'm thinking, so it's more important for people who are people pleasers to be liked by other people than to actually like themselves. Welcome back to Unapologetic Rabble-Rousers. I'm Doc Shelley.
And I'm Carla Lewis. And we are starting a series right now. Very excited about this. And we're going to give you the title of the entire series so it can set the stage for what you can expect and maybe not. So the title of this series is Breaking Free from People Pleasing to Unapologetic Authenticity. Unapologetic authenticity.
Unapologetic authenticity.
Don't have to explain away why you're being authentic, right? But the first area we want to talk about is this whole trap about people pleasing.
Yes. People pleasing is so interesting to me. I have certainly done it a few times over my life, but it's just, I find it really fascinating behavior and like an interesting study in human behavior. Why do we do it? We want people to like us. We want to be respected, but it's like at the cost of hiding who you are. Kind of interesting.
Well, it's interesting because for those that would be, and I too am familiar with it. We joked before the session because I'm a recovering people pleaser, but there's a cost. There's a cost at doing the people pleasing behavior, but there's also this presumed cost that we're trying to avoid paying by being not in the people pleasing place. I mean, what happens when you're pleasing people? You're getting some kind of regard, but you're going to take it as positive because at least it's not negative. It's the cost of doing it is so detrimental to just your own self-identity. It's like, who am I really? If I cannot see who I am without being mirrored in the eyes and in the attitudes of the people around me, if I can't see myself, then I need to make sure I create an environment where I can be reflected back as being really a good person. People like me. They want to be around me. They listen to me. They give me a chance. And I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that never stops.
As you're talking, I'm thinking, so it's more important for people who are people pleasers to be liked by other people than to actually like themselves.
That's
Think
a powerful.
about that.
Yeah, that's
Think
powerful.
about that. Yeah. I just read a post this morning in this group that I belong to, and a woman was sharing how she's in her 50s, I believe, and how she spent her entire life loathing herself and was constantly seeking approval from other people. And at 51, I think she has finally learned to love herself, and like she's been showing up authentically for people. And she shared this beautiful experience that she had. And she had gone out one evening. She decided to go see this band that she really likes. She went by herself and just had the best time. And she was talking to one of the people in the band afterwards. And a group of women said, "Well, how do you know her?" And he was like, "She's our girl." And she was like, "A year ago, I would have been so horrified." And then she's like, "I would have taken that compliment as a dig." And she's like, "And tonight I was like, yeah." just fully embrace it. But she's like, "I've never shown up authentically like that before." She was by herself, dancing around to the music, just having a grand time by herself. And people loved it. And the women who had asked him, and then it was like, "Well, how do you know her?" And they're like, "We love your energy." And she was like, "Thank you." So it's amazing how we can seek approval from other people for your whole life And as you start to figure out who you are, even in your 50s, you start to figure out who you are and you start showing up differently, how freeing it is.
So I have a couple of things. One, there's a commercial on the television right now, and I think it has to do with an antidepressant. But there's a picture of recently they've started having a man also, but for the longest time it was a woman who was holding that smiley face on a stick that
The little
she would
mask
bring out,
smiley
yeah,
face. Yeah.
hiding behind that because it was so painful that she did not want people to know.
Mm-hmm.
And I just a personal experience. I'm a I'm a fairly upbeat person, if I do say so myself, and high energy and just loving life and loving the people I'm around because there's something to love in everyone. You just have to look a little harder for some than others. But I remember vividly, I was in a low place and part of it had to do with my physical health and part of it had to do with some issues that were happening to the health of my mother.
Mm.
So I happened to come into work on the low side. And that was a problem. People
Yes, people
had a problem with the fact that I wasn't who I was every day before that.
you didn't meet their expectation.
And I actually felt some resentment because, wait a minute, everyone around me has a chance to, have one of those off days and nobody's badgering them about what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong. You're not like yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying, this is me. It's still me. But when we start setting those expectations, when we start calibrating for other people what they should expect from us every day, and we come into a situation and we're different, there's some pain that comes along with having to say, no, really, I'm okay, I'm okay. But the other side of me wants to say, look give me a freaking break, okay? Right. Do I have to explain why I'm not all smiley and high energy today? Can you just accept the fact that it's a different day and whatever's going on? Carla, I just sense that there might be something. So if there's anything I can do, let me know and be done with it.
Yeah.
I so resented it. I did come to terms with the fact that there was genuine concern. It's just people were pointing it out by virtue of how I was acting, which
not just saying, hey, are you okay today? Or something I can help you with. And it's like, well, you're not yourself today. What's going on?
Honestly,
it has a very different connotation. But you talk about the cost of people pleasing. Resentment is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Burnout is one. And you already covered loss of self-identity. But it's funny. I also had a work situation and I had a raging headache, bordering on a migraine. And we were in a meeting and the person I reported to at the time, when we walked out of the meeting, she was like, why are you so angry today? And I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, you didn't really say anything in the meeting today. You look angry. And I was like, first of all, don't assign me a label that I'm not willing to wear. I could count on 3 fingers the times I've literally been angry in my life. I don't get angry. So
I do get even, but I don't get
right. But I was like, I'm not angry. I don't feel good. I've got a really bad headache. She's like, you look angry. Well, I'm sorry that my face isn't showing up for you today, but I do not feel good. I showed up for this meeting. I took my notes. I didn't have anything to say.
Yeah, it's like
and she would not let it go that I was angry. And I was like, you're going to make me angry if you don't stop. I was like,
but thanks for the feedback.
Yeah. But it was funny. A couple days later, she came back to me and she goes, when you said, don't assign me a label I'm not willing to wear, that really stuck with me. And I was like, good. I'm glad. but it was, it's exhausting sometimes to have to show up a certain way. Like I'm pretty bold. I tend to speak up, and when I don't, the same kind of thing. Like, are you okay today? I'm fine. Just, if I don't have anything to say, I don't need to hear my voice. I'm not gonna talk for the sake of talking.
Right.
Y'all covered it. I don't have anything else to add. Like you should know this about me by now. So it's interesting how other people's expectations of you can impact your behavior.
And how the work that we do ahead of that establishes those expectations.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're
Mm-hmm.
not even honoring our own boundaries about where our authenticity doesn't stop at the outside of our skin. So, so if I'm in this people pleasing space, it's feeding something.
Mm-hmm.
That is feeding something. And it's a stronger drug, a stronger draw than how I feel being authentic.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps not smiling, or perhaps having that awful headache and not having to explain why you seem to feel that I'm angry. I'm not going to explain that away for you. If you've noticed that I'm different and off my game or whatever it is, you could express appreciation for having noticed that, and you can invite that I would have an opportunity to share more with you or
Mm-hmm.
not.
Mm-hmm.
But don't be coming wagging your finger in my face and telling me that you're different. I don't like it.
Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, just oh, okay. That I went visual there for the listeners. I was shaking my fist in the air.
When we like for me, when I think about when my people pleasing tendency might show up, it's about 99.9% of the time to avoid conflict. I am not afraid of conflict, let me be clear. But sometimes I do not want to waste my time with certain people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just easier to smile and nod.
Yeah, it's kind of like
Because
whatever.
I know I'll never be. There's certain people in my life, past and present, that I will never be right. I could say the sky is blue, and they're gonna be like, "No, it's not." Oh, you're right. It's not. Yeah. I'll go along with you because it's not worth the argument sometimes. That's typically when my people pleasing shows up. Is I don't have the time or space to deal with it right now. So sure, I'll go
So it's
along to get along.
interesting that you would call that people pleasing, and I can see it. I would have first thought, no, that's just you honoring your boundary. But what it's doing is it's letting the other person have permission to stop pushing the point and not waste any more ergs or breath
Yeah.
on trying to argue it.
Yeah, I've just always considered that people pleasing because I'm
Okay.
like, I'm just not gonna
Yeah.
do this right now.
Yeah.
It's not worth my time.
No.
But like, what are for you? Because you've kind of talked about, being a recovering people pleaser.
Yes.
When does it typically show up for you? Like, were there themes that you noticed or
Not having had more than a couple seconds here to reflect on it, I think actually you have already nailed the number one reason, and that is to avoid conflict. And I may not be as good about conflict as you. I'm not as comfortable in it. I'm not going to avoid it.
Mhm.
But at the same time, when people pleasing starts to rear its head, it's usually in the face of something like that. So I think I just contradicted myself. But I don't find myself in conflict situations very often, and I'm believing it's because of the work that I do that is about establishing and honoring my boundaries and mutual
Mhm.
respect for the people who might be involved in whatever exchange is going on. How about for you?
Yeah, I think it's really for me like when people pleasing shows up, it really is around conflicts. I can't really think of another time
Yeah.
where it's it's been something else. I'm
Yes.
sure maybe as a kid it probably was I don't want to get yelled at.
Right, right. But I think, for our listeners, that's a really important question.
Mm-hmm.
What do you recognize in yourself in terms of people pleasing tendencies, this need or pursuit of approval, and what are the things that trigger it?
I think triggers are a big thing to understand, right? Because it could be a number of things. Sometimes it's just conditioning, societal conditioning, family conditioning, institutional conditioning. It's the way you're brought up. And a lot of people are brought up, at least people my age, where, be quiet. Kids are meant to be seen and not heard, kind of a thing. And so if you grow up under certain conditions that seem normal, you carry that through your life until you recognize at some point in time, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel authentically me. And then how do you start to show up as yourself without fear of rejection? Because I think that's also a big trigger for people. People want to be respected. They want to be liked. And if they show up authentically, oh my God, what if they don't like me?
I just had this idea pop in about, we've learned since very, very early on about approval and disapproval. And while I don't know that it is the root of people pleasing and this whole approval syndrome, but as children, if there was something if the parents weren't happy about a certain something, then it was painful, sometimes even physically. So you talk about conditioning, good grief. From the very moment we take our second breath, we are in that role of being conditioned. So I guess it can go back sometimes right to those roots and say, if you've not done any work to establish your own sense of approval and disapproval, from inside you, not from outside, then it's going to continue to be fed from the outside. And it's a powerful drug. Approval is a powerful drug. And seeking it just to have it versus recognizing that it can come naturally if you're being your authentic self, unapologetically true to who you are and the boundaries you establish and the respect you have for yourself as well as for others. It's powerful.
It is. And this is one of the reasons years ago I started asking myself the question that I've shared before: were my words and actions worthy of respect today? Because there are people that don't like me. It's okay. I'm not doing anything wrong to make people not like me. I have a big personality most of the time. Sometimes I'm very quiet, but I tend to have a big personality. I'm funny. I am smart. I challenge the status quo. Some people don't like any of that. They want me to be quiet and in the corner. And I'm never going to show up like that.
No.
Well, I can't say never. I mean, rarely will I show up like that. But it's when you can embrace your core values and you can understand that it's okay if people don't like you, then you can just show up more authentically for yourself. And I would say that it is more powerful to show up for yourself in a way that is healthy, and understanding the impact you have on other people is so much more powerful than people pleasing.
Well, that sounds like a wonderful way to wrap this first in a series.
Yes, we will be back for probably 4 or 5 more episodes on this whole topic of breaking free from people pleasing to unapologetic authenticity. With that, I'm Doc Shelley.
And I'm Carla Lewis. Please let us know your thoughts on the message we were just chewing on together. Leave some comments, share with your friends, and we will talk soon.
I would say that it is more powerful to show up for yourself in a way that is healthy and understanding the impact you have on other people is so much more powerful than people pleasing.